Welcome to Creative Love Radio. This is episode number 34, where we're going to talk about the biggest question we get is, can I choose the person I fall in love with? Or is love just a happy accident? Stay tuned. We'll get started. Welcome to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. We are redefining relationships to guide you to greater love, more success, and living your purpose through the latest research in neuroscience, Jungian psychology, and Eastern wisdom. Get ready for another inspirational episode of Creative Love Radio. Hey, Rob.
Hey.
How are you doing today?
Good. We're back.
Creative Love Radio, another exciting episode. The journey continues, and this is really an interesting question is, can we choose who we fall in love with?
People and philosophers and scientists have been trying to answer this question for millennia.
The brain, is our brain choosing and our hormones choosing? But before we get started, I want to just remind everyone that we are going to be coming to New York City in April for our Creative Love Story Live program. And it's a 2-day weekend. There's only a limited amount of seats. It's a very small group of people that we're taking through a very special process to change their love story, not consciously, but on a deep level. So when they leave, they're going to be living out a new experience in love.
Not consciously, meaning
you're not just going to like make a happy.
Not only consciously.
Yes. I'm not going to put you out. Yeah, but it's not just about putting a happy story over a sad story. We're basically going to help you see the potential that lies within you through a bunch of experiential activities, and it's going to be really cool. So April 21st and 22nd in Soho, New York City, and we'd love for you to come. If you're interested, just let us know by contacting our customer service, and we'll let you know if there are any tickets left before they go away.
Yeah.
So speaking of creating a love story,
right?
Can we just write it out and pick someone and say, you are the one I want to fall in love with?
Do we have a choice in what happens to us in the mating game and the relationship area of our lives? And the answer is yes and no. And that's what we're going to be talking about. Now, first of all, in general, right, people do talk about having a choice. They think, okay, I'm ready to create a relationship, or I'm ready to fall in love, or I'm going to put myself out there. Mm-hmm. And certainly we do have choices in those realms of,
like making a decision?
Making a decision to put ourselves out there. So in that sense, we do have some choice. We can choose to make ourselves available. And then once we do start dating people, I can certainly say, well, yeah, I'm going to continue to see this person, or say yes to their date or to dating a certain person. So
we can look online and we can look at profiles and say, oh, I like this age range. I like this type of look. I like this type of social, what they do for a living. Maybe I want to date doctors or lawyers, or I want to date a creative person. I like their style. And then we could choose who we go on the date with.
Absolutely. Now, at the other level, there was an Eagles song a while back that said, you can't make love, meaning you cannot generate that chemistry, that falling in love piece, that emotional connection at will, right? Because often you meet somebody and you think, well, this is a great person. I want to fall in love. Or you have emotions and feelings towards them, but it's not mutual.
Or they're the wrong type of, they're always the person that you just should not be falling for.
Completely wrong person, maybe completely wrong timing, etc.
Mm-hmm. Like you could be in another relationship, or they're in a relationship, or there's someone you work with or your boss, and you're like, why do I have these feelings for them?
Or often the person will look good on paper and, it just might be a good match in every respect, but there's nothing there. There's no spark.
And you want to make it happen. You want to, I wish I could feel for this person. I wish I could just fall in love, and they're so nice, and you just keep going out with them and hoping, and they just actually, the more you force it, it almost feels that they turn you off even more. And the nicer they are to you, the more you are repulsed by them. And you're just like, why can't I just like this person? They're ready. They want to love me. They want to get married to me. And it's what I really want, but I just don't feel it.
Yeah. And, if you think about some of Shakespeare's plays where it's a comedy of errors where the person that's the love interest doesn't love the person and loves somebody else, but that other person loves somebody else. And it's just this confusing array of misalignments where nobody loves the person that loves them back.
Or even Romeo and Juliet, they come from dueling families and enemies, and that their love was not accepted because they were on the wrong side of the tracks. So we see a lot of that as well. People, it's like this love that's forbidden. And so how do we control this feeling of love? Can we hone in on it, and can we direct it consciously in a way with the person?
Or do we want to?
Do we want to, or do we want to just flow? And for me, I used to call it the flurfy feeling. I'd have that flurfy kind of butterflies feeling, and I would go. That was my gauge of whether I would want to date someone again. Even if they didn't mean any logical match, any logical formula for what I wanted, but I had that feeling, so I would continue when I was younger more than as I got older and tired of that pattern. But I was using that basically as my honing device to figure out who I was going to be with. And I think a lot of people do that. They feel, I can't go even further unless I have that feeling. I need that feeling first, and then and then those who I have the feeling with, then I'll decide what to do from there. But it's like the feeling almost has a life of its own.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why it's falling in love. You're falling, meaning you don't have any control.
There's no ground.
You've stumbled onto something, and you've fallen into this situation. But from our perspective, and of course this is our opinion based on our work and what we've studied and researched and how we worked with clients over the years, you do have a certain say-so. And the more conscious you become of your own emotions, of your own emotional life, the more in tune you are with this inner life of yours, the more choice you'll have.
So, Rob, how do we do this?
Right. That's the $1 million question.
Yes.
How the hell do we get a hold of our
mind?
Well, we can break it down into 3 general areas. The first one is physical attraction.
Ooh.
Which is, like you were saying, it's where we start. Most of us start with the physical attraction. If there is no physical attraction, most of the time it doesn't go anywhere. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, there are those cultures where marriages are arranged and it seems to work okay, all right? But that's another story. We'll leave that for another call. But physical attractiveness, or let's say attraction to another human being based on their physicality, it's an important piece, and we shouldn't overlook it. But you want to examine, is that all there is? Is that all I'm feeling? Mm-hmm. Because it's a natural instinct in us, and the urge to merge is going to arise very often. And
it's sexual.
Yeah, and a lot of people mistake it for love. They think, if I'm physically attracted to somebody, that means I'm in love, or that they will be a good partner for me. And they go with that. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but what do you think goes wrong when we make decisions based on that?
Well, I could tell you, not that I've had any personal experience, but it's like you have a physical relationship with someone, and then there's no conversation outside of the physical. Yeah. There's no connection. You can spend a wonderful romantic sexual night with them, and then the next morning it's silent. It's awkwardness.
Crickets.
They're going to call you. It's kind of weird, and you don't know. You're not even communicating of where this relationship is going. But then they call you at 10 o'clock on a Friday night because they were out partying with their friends at happy hour, and they kind of are horny and they want to see you because the physical attraction's there. They do want to see you. They like you that way. And then you hang out with them, and then it's the same thing. It's like, well, what are you doing tonight? Well, I'm kind of, I have something planned tonight, or they're not really connecting on that level. And it seems as though that person is unavailable, but it really is your unwillingness to get connected because you wouldn't put up with it if
right.
that was okay. The reason we have these relationships is because it's comfortable for us not to get intimate, not to talk, not to have that vulnerability with each other in a emotional way versus just physical.
Yeah, so it's a double-edged sword. We want the physical attraction because without it, we can't really go to the next level. But we also want to be aware that it's not only that.
Yes.
The second level is the romantic piece, meaning, is there emotion involved, right? Is this relationship pulling that emotion out of me and that connectedness to this other person, that soulfulness? And often, now it's another double-edged sword in this sense, that we tend to project a lot of the romanticism into the relationship. And projection there's nothing wrong with projection. It's a natural defense that the mind has, meaning that we tend to imbue this other person with qualities that they often don't have. We wish they had it.
Yeah.
But so we have to be careful. We have to be able to examine that part of our mind. Are we projecting?
And it's interesting because we sometimes over idolize the other person and put them on a pedestal. And then at the same time, people that are actually really good for us, we tend to diminish what their value is and not see the great qualities of themselves in that other person. And a lot of times it's because we don't recognize them within ourselves. We rather recognize the flaws and the unlovability of ourselves, and then it shows up in the relationship versus, wow, I'm really awesome and I'm really lovable. And then when you see someone who thinks that of you, you diminish them because you don't feel that in yourself. So it's all a big house of mirrors when it comes to love. And then there's also people that live, don't want the physical experience. They have long distance relationships where I worked with clients when I first started doing hypnotherapy. I got a whole slew of different people, and a lot of I've had a couple people that had like the distance relationship where they haven't even met the person yet.
Right.
But it was they call them their boyfriend or girlfriend, and they've been dating for years, but they've never met physically. And it's this whole emotional fantasy of this person and this conversation, but they never met physically. So it's almost like, yeah, it's really safe to open up like that and have a fantasy love, but I don't see that as a real deep emotional connection.
Right. There you would see the projection at play. Mm-hmm. It becomes to the person, it feels real, but it's a fantasy, like you said, and it's all projection. You want to make sure there is an emotional connection and it's rooted in a reality, not just fantasy. So that's the second piece. Now, the third piece is that social compatibility. Does the person fit into my life? And if those other two qualities are there, meaning there's a physical attractiveness, there's an emotional connection, then this third level kind of brings it home that this person is available, they're committed to being with me in a real sense. Then you're on the right track. You're moving towards a creating a real relationship and a long-lasting relationship. Whereas when you're ignoring those elements, you run the risk of being kind of in projection and fantasy. So these elements, examining these parts of your psyche and what the relationship is on as far as these 3 tracks, they'll help you understand what's going on in your emotional life and if you're ready to commit.
And then, so you examine those things, and so how would you change them?
You're able to change them because if you're honest with yourself, you know that you tend to project, or you tend to go with the physicality, or you tend to want to commit before, let's say, before there are those emotional connections and even that physical attraction. So, I'll give you an example. Somebody wants to get married so badly that they're willing to fantasize that there is an emotional connection.
Are you talking about me again?
I've worked with many clients who, that's their primary objective. I want to get married. And to overlook the emotional connection and even the physical attraction is a mistake. It might work for a little while, but it'll catch up with you, right? Because you're leaving out the foundations of a relationship and kind of jumping to the third level, third base. So that's an example.
That's what happened when I was engaged. I didn't really, he was physically attractive and he had like a kind of on paper looked good, but I didn't have those feelings. So I basically manufactured that I was in love with this person because he wanted to marry me, and he had the picket fence. He had the house in the cul-de-sac and the suburbs, and, had a, good family unit and dinners on Sundays. And it was just kind of like, I wanted to fit in that package. But when it came down to it, I realized it was just a projection. It wasn't real. And thank God I didn't go through with the wedding, but it could be, it almost made me realize going toward that, oh yeah, I'm really caught up here and this isn't as real as I want it to be. And it made me not want that marriage so bad to be willing to make a big mistake. And so what you're saying is that we want to recognize the pattern, but we don't want to just do the opposite of our pattern. Like for me, I was always going for the unavailable man. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to consciously go for an available person and force myself to love an available person. That's what happened. And that didn't work. So it's not about just changing behavior or saying, I'm going to choose to go for nice guys now on. I'm going to look for the red flags. It's about understanding why you're choosing them in the first place. What are you really afraid of? That's really the real crux of it, not just changing behavior. Yeah, and exactly. A lot of you hear dating experts tell you, just watch for the red flags and make a conscious choice. And that's great, but the underlying pattern, if you don't examine it, is going to play out again.
Yeah. Somebody caught in the romantic projection, on the other hand, would tend to overlook am I willing to, let's say, to ignore the social compatibility piece just to have that fantasy of romanticism? And, often we see that, that people, they think if there's a strong emotional projection on my part, that I want this romantic love to be there. Or even if it's there often, but the social compatibility is not there.
Mm-hmm. Like they could be married or not, not available.
The other person, yeah, the other person might not be available.
Or they're going through a divorce.
But they're holding on to this idea that if romance is there, then everything will work out. Then that's kind of sabotaging the relationship as well.
So how do we go beneath and discover who we are beyond those ego? Right.
Because we're talking about choice, meaning if all these things are at play and we don't examine them, then we don't have a choice. Mm-hmm. We think we are making choices, but we're really under the spell of the psychological, emotional processes that are going on. The more we're able to look at them in a clear-eyed way and accept that, okay, I tend to be this or I tend to do that, and
just
again,
be aware.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with these things. We all do them. They're part of our nature. But we want to be aware. That way we do have a choice. The more aware we are, the more we acknowledge them and bring them to awareness, the more choice we'll have in the kind of relationships that we'll create.
So what you're saying is that we have to examine our past choices and our current choices and look deeper instead of just making the choice by default. And one way to do that would be to say, why do I want love in the first place? Like, why do I want a relationship? And if it's about protection or if it's about feeling safe, it's about feeling accepted, those are really ego-based needs, not a deep soulful need. And those feelings will cloud who we're attracted to.
Absolutely.
And then when you're attracted to someone and you have that chemistry, you have to step back and say, why do I have chemistry with this person? Instead of just saying, oh, I have chemistry with this person, let me run with it. It's to stop and just self-examine, look why, and ask yourself why. And you may not know the answer, but this right away, but simply asking the question opens up something. And you'll either have a dream or a serendipitous event that will come in and show you. And it's almost like we have this divine wisdom within us that's trying to guide us, that's trying to pull us out of that old pattern and really become, have the love we really want. And so if we stop and ask the question, it allows that divine wisdom to start basically seeping into our consciousness and our awareness so we can start really living and having that soulful connection that we want.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, we do have choices.
Yay!
But it does require that self-reflection and self-knowledge. Mm-hmm. So once you have that, then you can go out there and create all kinds of incredible things.
And one thing I would say is before you reject someone, when you first meet, or even if you see someone online and you're just like, oh, I don't know, ask yourself, why am I rejecting that person? Not only why am I drawn to someone, but why do I reject certain people? And just keep asking the question. And the wisdom within you will start to help you and start to answer it for you. But even just questioning instead of just reacting to life and questioning, why am I doing this, is going to change everything for you. So great insight here.
And if you have any questions about what you're doing, join us in New York. Like Debbie says, we'll give you some of the answers. And
maybe all of the answers. And we also are going to be, we have our Engaged in a Year program that's running live right now. If you want to interact with us live, we only do it once, last time we did it live was last year. So we don't do our courses online live very often. So if you're interested, sign up right away because it might be your window of opportunity to break free and fall in love with the right person that you choose consciously.
That's right.
So take care, everyone, and we'll
love.
see you on the next show. You've been listening to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. For more information, visit us on our website at creativelove.com.